My mother passed away 3 years ago. The family home, where I and my sister grew up, was willed to me. It was her ancestral property, and she wanted her daughter to have it. The other vacation home went to my 16-year-old sister. Our father remarried 6 months after mom passed away and moved his new wife in. My sister says that woman has removed all of our family pictures from the main living area. She has removed our mom's pictures as well. Now all of these pictures adorn the walls of my sister's room. Recently our father and his wife announced that they were pregnant with twins. My sister didn't take it well. She's still not over mom's death and had a breakdown after the announcement. The night of my sister's 16th birthday party, she brought a lot of friends over and the party went on till the next morning. My dad's wife, who was out with our father on vacation, returned the same morning and lost her cool when she saw the kids passed out on the living room. Our dad knew about the party, they just got home earlier than expected. His wife proceeded to lose her cool and had a big shouting match with my sister. She said that my sister was just like our mom and was a burden on our dad. She then asked her to leave and sent her packing to our aunts. I was furious when I got to know about it. I showed up home the next day and asked them to leave within a week. She's 7 months pregnant and had no idea that the house belonged to me. I know I shouldn't be kicking a pregnant woman out, but I don't want my spineless father and his wife to abuse my sister anymore. My father called me a cruel brat and now wants to challenge our mom's will. He can try, my mom's family has already appointed their family lawyer to fight my case. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. 1. New wife does not own the home. 2. Your mom passed 3 years ago, so I suspect the will is out of probate. Too late for your dad to contest the will, especially since the property is your mother's ancestral home. 3. Please see a lawyer about the eviction process. Your dad and his wife could legally fight it, saying you didn't give them written notice and 30 days to vacate. I'm not saying they will win, I'm saying they could make your life a nightmare if they choose. 4. Then again, your sister didn't get 30 days written notice. Please consult an attorney anyway. It sounds like your mom might have seen this coming, which is why she willed the 2 properties to you and your sister, not her husband. Also, do you feel like 6 months was too soon for your dad to find someone else and get married? It kinda sounds like that woman was lingering around and she took advantage during an unfortunate period for your family. If your dad lied or omitted to let her know that the house doesn't belong to him, that's on him. As for your sister, it sounds like the new wife doesn't want her around in the first place and made it difficult for her. As for her being pregnant, well, don't be a jerk when you're living under someone else's roof, then you won't get told to leave. I come from a fairly well-off family, and my husband and I do well, although we both work high-demand jobs for it. We've always been very generous to his side of the family. Gifts are very much both my husband and my love language, and in my culture, Chinese, elaborate gifts to in-laws are very socially acceptable as a way to show they are held in high esteem. It also helps with some of our guilt for being super busy and not always around. Additionally, my side of the family exchanges generous gifts. One concern of mine originally was to treat my husband's family the same as my family, for example by not spending way more on my family than his. Last Christmas, we had some weirdness over Christmas Day present opening. I had purchased a lovely cashmere throw for sister-in-law, husband's brother's wife. She googled the brand and price then and there, which kind of annoyed me, and later I overheard her make some joke about how she could pay half a mortgage payment. Several hours later during brunch, someone asked her what was wrong, she seemed upset, and she confessed that our presents always make her feel bad, she's tired of us throwing our money in her and her husband's face, and Christmas has become really stressful with pressure over gift giving. Husband and I apologized profusely and did some self-reflection afterwards on the unintentional effects of elaborate gift giving and decided to go more low-key in the future. Although a little part of it has always sat poorly with me since. This past Saturday, I attended a baby shower for the same sister-in-law. It's the first gift-giving occasion since Christmas, and I really wanted to do it carefully. I asked a coworker who recently had a baby what range is typically appropriate. She said she mostly got gifts between $30–50, and so I decided on 3 little things from the registry totaling just over $30. Anyways, at the shower it becomes clear that while certainly most gifts were in the $30–50 range, all attendees who were family members seemed to give more like $100 gifts. Near the end of the event, mother-in-law pulled me aside and said that sister-in-law felt like I was being spiteful to her for Christmas. I again apologized and as a cover, said that husband and I had written a check for the little one's college fund as well, but didn't feel it was appropriate to hand to her during the present opening. Then I scurried off to the bathroom and wrote a check for $100. When I found sister-in-law by herself for a second, I handed her the check and explained that we wanted to give her this earlier, but present opening seemed like a bad time. She looked at the check and kind of viciously said, "We don't need your money." I kind of snapped and told her bluntly, and not like yelling, but not like in hushed tones either, people nearby apparently definitely overheard, that I was tired of her crap, and if it made her feel better, we could just stop exchanging presents in the future. She started crying, and I immediately left. I've been getting my texts from everyone in the family and her best friend about how I ruined the baby shower ever since. Not the idiot. It can be difficult exchanging gifts with family, where one party earns more or less, and I've been on both sides, but sister-in-law can't have her cake and eat it. She either accepts graciously, which throwing money in her face does not equal, or goes along with your plan like an adult. Sister-in-law is a child who wants to have her cake and eat it too, and has deep-seated issues with your comparative earnings. She needs to grow the hell up and go to therapy. Mother-in-law needs to piss off. Seems to me like there's some jealousy and resentment going on about how much you and your husband make, and no matter what you do, sister-in-law will be upset. You've tried your best to appease her, and clearly what she thought of you and your husband mattered to the both of you very much, but you can't keep walking this weird tightrope just to calm her insecurities. Also, I think now that you've said your bit openly, it might help your relationship actually. Your sister-in-law keeps moving the targets on you, nothing you do will be right for her. Buy her an expensive gift. You're throwing your money in her face. Buy her more reasonably priced gifts. You're apparently being spiteful. No longer exchanging gifts seems reasonable, but that doesn't make her happy either. Frankly, I have no idea what would make her happy, and I suspect you don't either. You tried really hard not to be an idiot, and you absolutely weren't. You can't meet someone's expectations if they keep changing them. My stepsister was going to get married this summer, but due to COVID she had to postpone. Unfortunately, she ended up losing a lot of her deposits, and now her budget is less than half of what it used to be. She also has to buy a new dress, bridesmaids outfits because she's now decided to have a winter wedding instead. I am also engaged, but we're still in the early stages of planning and recently decided to try to figure out what our potential budget would look like. My mom and stepdad have saved wedding funds for each of us, which are $10,000 each. This is money we've always known we'd receive for our weddings, and my siblings have already all received theirs. I was FaceTiming my mom and she asked me about the wedding planning, and I mentioned that my fiancé and I had opened a separate bank account for our wedding funds. I asked her if she could directly transfer the wedding fund into it when she was free, and she started acting weird and avoided the question and changed the subject. I got upset and asked her again, and she told me that they couldn't help with the wedding. I asked her what she meant, and she admitted my stepdad had given the money to my stepsister. I asked her why he would do that, and she mentioned how my stepsister had lost so much of her original budget due to the pandemic, and she would have to dramatically downsize her wedding. She came to them and begged to have my wedding fund, and my stepdad agreed, as my stepsister and her fiancé both work low-paying jobs and wouldn't be able to save the money up themselves in time. My stepdad's justification is that my fiancé comes from a filthy rich, his words, family, and that his family could make up the difference for what they would no longer be contributing. Apparently, he made a nasty joke about how fiancé's dad was going to throw money at our wedding anyways, and that maybe they should ask him to pay for stepsisters too. I was upset and so I ended the call. My mom has been calling me non-stop since, and has even asked my other sister to call me and tell me to answer her calls. When I told my sister what happened, she was angry but not surprised, because my stepdad has done similar things in the past, for example given part of my college fund to the same stepsister because she wasted her monthly allowance partying. My mom and stepdad have also sent me texts telling I have no right to be upset over what they chose to do with their money. My stepdad even said that since I'm so petty he's glad he never gave me a cent for my wedding. The more I calm down, I'm starting to wonder if I am being a childish idiot. It's not like I've booked anything yet and now will have to change plans. My dad also contributed to my sister's wedding, and I'm sure he'll offer to do the same for me. But then the other part of me wonders if had it been my stepbrother's wedding fund, would my stepdad be so quick to give it to my stepsister? Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It's shame that your sister's wedding didn't work out as planned, but it's not fair to punish you to make it even. You were promised 10K towards your wedding, and the gift is being stolen from you in the same way your college fund was stolen. She doesn't have to buy new dresses. She could wait until next summer or ask her wedding party to find a mutual color in their closets. She's wasting money that she shouldn't have in the first place. The money is only the secondary issue. Your step is an idiot, and your mom facilitated the idiotness. There was no reason, none, for them to take away the funds, except that they value the stepsis over you. Full stop. Your stepsis may have requested the funds, the cow, but your parents gave it to her without much hesitation. The best you can do is take some time away. Speaking to either of them now would do more damage than good. I can't believe they are trying to justify their idiotness by saying your fiancé has money. Deflection much. So your stepdad sees nothing wrong with reneging on promised funding to bail out his spoiled daughter, again, because it wasn't your money yet, but he's treating your in-laws' theoretical contribution as a done deal. They were wrong. They know they were wrong. Simply acknowledging that fact and apologizing would cost them nothing, and they can't even do that much. Until they change their minds on that, they can sit in their wrongness while you figure out your next steps. Last week, my family and I, 24, put my twin brother to rest. He crashed his motorcycle, and the emergency medical technicians weren't able to arrive in time to save him. It's been a lot to deal with since we were making plans to hang out now that restaurants and bars have begun opening back up. The funeral was a pretty small family gathering. 2 of my brother's friends came and offered their sympathy, which was nice. Our mom was inconsolable. Dad did his best to comfort her. I stepped out for a minute to have a cigarette before the service, trying to decide what I wanted to say about my brother. My aunt, 55, came out to say hi, then brought up how awful she feels for my parents, having to bury their own son. I nodded and started to say something, but then she was like, "Do you think it's really appropriate for you to be here?" I was so confused, like, that's my brother. I didn't say that yet, just stared at her like she must be telling some weird joke. I settled for, "Are you kidding me?" Then she said, "With you two being identical twins, it must be like seeing a ghost. I really think you should leave, it might make this easier on your mom." I completely lost it. I tried to stay firm but calm, saying she had no right to say something like that to me, but my emotions got the best of me, and I started screaming. I called her some choice words, and my dad came out as I was calling her an evil idiot. I admit that may have been too much, and my dad yelled at me not to talk to his sister that way. He pulled her back inside and looked at me with this disappointed expression. I went back in before the service. My aunt sat far from me and didn't acknowledge me for the rest of the day. My parents didn't bring it up either. A few days later, my dad calls and says he wasn't sure what had happened, but there had been no need to cause a scene on a day like that. I explained myself, but he's not replied. My cousins think I'm a douchebag. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You can tell them to all back off. If my aunt had said something like that, when my older sister died, I would have attacked her. I am not a twin, but I was super close to my sister, and we share a lot of personality traits. So I can only imagine what it's like to lose your twin. I'm so sorry that happened to you, and your family is being one giant idiot to think that what you did was not right. They aren't showing you any compassion. You were literally burying your twin brother, and your aunt thinks it's appropriate to tell you to leave because you look alike. Get out of here. And then they get mad because you yelled, and they jump to her defense. Bullcrap. Your anger was justified. Your yelling was justified. I'm sorry for your brother. Your aunt pretty much put blame for your mother's extreme sadness on you. That's just wrong. Your reaction admittedly wasn't the best, but it was a very emotional situation, and those sometimes get the best of us. She had no word in asking you to leave. If anything, after that comment you could have asked her to leave. I suggest you sit down with your aunt and explain why you reacted how you did, maybe even with your parents present, so that they can hear both sides of the story. I am so sorry for your loss. I couldn't imagine what you're going through. Being an identical myself, my heart aches for you. People who don't have an identical just don't understand the connection. It is a connection that is stronger than even a mother and child could have. Your aunt had no right to say anything like that to you. No one does. She obviously doesn't see you all as being two different people. That's her problem. She owes you an apology. Again, I am so sorry for your loss. Backstory: my wife and I have 2 kids, 9, 4. My wife got pregnant very easily. Our first kid was even an ops baby. She had relatively easy pregnancies comparatively and extremely easy labor comparatively. No major complications or anything like that. On the other hand, my brother and his wife have been trying for years and had to endure medical surgeries for my sister-in-law and utilize IVF in order to finally get pregnant after spending who knows how much money. So when they finally got pregnant, they made it a much bigger deal than I would say is typical even for a first baby for a couple. For example, their baby shower, instead of being sort of typical with close friends and family at like someone's house and opening gifts and such, was at this very expensive venue with extravagant catering, and it was formal attire, and they didn't even open presents. My wife was involved in the planning for this, and it was during this that she started to kind of get annoyed with my sister-in-law. She would plan certain events and fun typical baby games, and it would get shot down by my sister-in-law, and she would basically replace it with her own idea. So that whole event left a bit of a sour taste for this whole pregnancy ever since. Otherwise, everyone in our family has been supportive and excited. The baby is due at the end of this month. So, last night my wife received a Facebook message thread, including my parents and other family, from my sister-in-law that said in order for any of us to see the baby, either in the hospital after he's born or later back at home, we would need to bring our vaccination records to show that we're up to date on certain vaccinations and have gotten our seasonal flu shot. My wife lost it. She started saying how completely insane my sister-in-law and brother are being and basically is over the pregnancy and doesn't care to meet our nephew. Well, I said that I agree they are being a bit on the extreme side. I can sort of understand how they're like extra precautious because of everything they've been through to even get pregnant, and in all reality this is probably their one and only chance. They can't afford to go through IVF again, and my sister-in-law is too old, it would be high risk anyway. My entire family, including the kids, are all up to date on our shots, so it's not like it would be hard to comply. We would just need to get our records. I also said I can understand in this day and age with the anti-vax community you never know who has what, so I can see being careful around strangers, but they should trust family members that we wouldn't put our own family, the baby, in harm's way. But overall, I sort of understand why they're being careful, and it's no big deal. Well, she took this as me siding with them over her. She's been angry with me ever since. Am I the idiot? You're the idiot. I don't think asking those who meet the child to be up to date on vaccines is a problem, but I think the lack of trust is. I wouldn't let myself or anyone in my family be driven by a drunk driver, but I don't breathalyze people before getting into the car with them. If I trust them enough to travel with them, I trust them to be honest with me, and I think the same applies in this situation. If sister-in-law trusts you enough to see her child, then she should also trust you not to lie to her. I'm actually really impressed that you can see it the way you do and not think that they are overreacting. When I gave birth to my son after having my own troubles conceiving, I was super protective and cautious about who I allowed around him. I understand where your bro and sister-in-law are coming from. This baby is someone they had to work so very hard for, and they're doing their job in protecting him. I think maybe your wife's frustration stems a little bit from jealousy too, since her pregnancies probably weren't as largely celebrated. No idiots here. Your wife's frustration is valid, especially after feeling sidelined while helping plan the baby shower, but your brother and sister-in-law being cautious is totally understandable, especially given what they've been through, and you taking their side makes sense. Did your wife say she didn't care to meet your nephew out of frustration, or does she properly mean it? I don't know your situation, but it seems like something people would say at the moment, but take back.